All right. Well, welcome everybody to the May meeting of the Texas Teams community. Thank you for joining as always. And we have Mark Leavenworth with us here from the DIR. So thanks, Mark, for your ongoing partnership every month. Really appreciate it.
Hey, thank you for hosting.
Yes, absolutely. So a couple of different things this month. The first is a big thank you. So this is Public Service Servants Recognition Week, and just really want to say thank you to everybody on this call. As you know, we don't allow other partners or vendors or organizations to join. So every person on this call is a public servant, and I just really want to say thank you. Y'all serve our state, our cities, our counties, educational institutions. So thank you so much. And I don't have the ability to send praise into your tenants, but this little GIF right here, I don't know if y'all have ever used the praise feature in Viva Insights, but this is like a little animated GIF. And then there's a YouTube video here also. I'll drop this into the chat, or I don't know if I can, I can't copy it while it's on the slides. But what praise is it's included with your Viva Insights, which is included with Teams and Office 365. And all you do is you go to the little ellipse down there on this, what we call the left rail, and it may be turned off inside your organization. But if you click that and you select praise, you can pin it to the left rail by right-clicking the icon and saying pin. And one of the things you can do in Viva Insights is send praise to a coworker. So just as a neat way of thanking your coworkers during this recognition week, you can use that. And so when you send out praise, it goes out and you can pick, thank you or different messages that you can send. And you can send it to a lot of people, or you can send it to one person. You can send it via chat is what most people do. And so again, you click which one you want. You can put in a message. You can put a different background. You can take a look at it before you send it, and then you click send. And it's just a real nice thing. It'll pop up in their Teams chat message, and it's just a way to say thank you. You can send it to your boss, coworker, someone that works for you. But it's free, it's easy, and it's just a nice thing to do. Oh, and you can forward them. I didn't know that, Jennifer. Thank you. Let me bring the chat up so I'm keeping an eye on the chat. Oh, yeah, cool. Thank you, Raimundo, for copying that in there. Oh, nice. Tim, y'all use praise in Teams all the time. Very popular. Excellent. Let's see if there's anything else there. Yeah, and the link on the slide, I'm using PowerPoint Live. So you just go under Share and then PowerPoint Live, and that brings up PowerPoint. And the cool thing about PowerPoint Live is I can still see all the list of people that are in the meeting, the chat, everything. I have this nice speakers notes view, and I can see all my slides, so I can jump around the slides. So I know I've talked about it many times, but for anybody new, or if you've forgotten, it's a great way to view PowerPoint. Now, one gotcha. If you use an embedded video, like a YouTube video or something like that, and you're recording the meeting, it doesn't record the YouTube video that plays embedded in the slide. And that's a real drag. So what you have to do later is go and edit that into your recording, or what I do is I put a link to the recording in the meeting notes. But that's an unfortunate, I don't know why that happens, but it does. With all that said, thank you again to all of you for serving the citizens of Texas. I think y'all are doing a great job, and I think we're using Teams to make it even better. So we have a really great agenda today. As I said earlier, if you're just joining, we are going to talk about Power BI today. And we have a gentleman that I get the pleasure of working with named Cyrus Christian. And Cyrus is a specialist in Power BI. And Cyrus, how long have you been working with Power BI?
Ever since it came out, so I've been working with Power BI. I started my career as a SharePoint admin and kind of involved into a business intelligence, architect or admin, because SharePoint at that time was the de facto Microsoft delivery of SSRS at the time. And then that evolved over time into what we call Power BI today, but they got rid of the SharePoint piece and just left the good part. So I don't want to badmouth SharePoint, but If you were a SharePoint on-prem admin at any point in your career, you are glad that there's an online offering, because of the maintenance and the watering and feeding of SharePoint on-prem was a full-time job that I don't wish on my worst enemy.
I remember those days, and I remember when I heard that for the first time that there were going to be like hundreds of site collections. I was like, "Are you insane?" That was before they had re-architected everything. After they had re-architected everything, and so yeah. So Cyrus is with us today, and so we're going to do this in a kind of an interesting way. So the first session, and we're going to go over time a little bit here, so I'll talk faster. So we had a coworker named Rachel who unfortunately got caught up in the layoffs. She was incredibly talented with Power BI also, and she did a recording of a demonstration of Power BI integration into Teams, and it's really just like a best practice. And just it's kind of one of those demonstrations you can't really do better. So we're actually going to watch the recording together, which we normally don't do here, but it's so good that we're going to do that. And then Cyrus could do, like, if you had questions at the end of that. And then Cyrus is going to show us also how to use Power BI and Power Platform and Dataverse for some of the integrations that if you've been here a long time, you might have seen David Gottlieb with the city of Austin show some of these capabilities, but that was before Dataverse existed. He was using SharePoint as his backend and SharePoint lists. So we'll look at that. We'll have some open discussion time, but we've got a lot to cover. So let me keep going. So Mark Leavenworth in the DIR, part of Mark's job is doing the community outreach and education. And so he would like to have us fill out an evaluation form. And so the evaluation is for today's session. So if you want to go ahead and open it up, it's using Microsoft Forms, which comes with Office 365. So he created this form. He did a nice job on it, by the way, Mark. Looks really nice. And if you could fill it out at the end, or if you're not going to stay till the end, you want to fill it out about a previous session or just about the community in general, then maybe you could put that in the comments. Mark, anything you want to say about the forum or why you're doing it or anything like that?
I don't think so. We just we really value feedback, and would love to hear what people think. Any suggestions or ideas? There's a comment section at the bottom.
Yeah. And it's going to go to Mark, not to me. So if you have a message you want to deliver to me, like, Kennedy, get a different job, then you can put that in the comments, and Mark will feed stuff to me. And if it's not nice, I'm sure he'll nice it up and deliver your message to me. And so, but yeah, please fill that out. I'm going to have this link again at the end, and we'll also cut and paste it into the chat. So thank you very much for your feedback. And we really do want your honest feedback. If there are things we could do to improve, please let us know. So the community interest list, this is how you request to be added. So some people forward this to other people in their organization, forward the meeting request for the team, and it goes out to it's like 600 people now. And so some people join all of the time, and some people join some of the time. And some of those are people that no longer join, but they just want to be aware, and then they get the follow up with the email and the link to the recording and all that stuff. So, but instead of just forwarding the meeting to someone, if you could go ahead and have them sign up on the interest list, that puts them in my master list. And I still use just a spreadsheet and a Teams meeting. I don't have like a CRM platform or anything available to me. So we'll use that as kind of the official sign up form. You can also request to be removed via that form. So please fill that out if you need to. And I did, by the way, when I messed up the meeting request last time, a bunch of you went and filled it back out and said, hey, I still want to be part of Texas Teams community. So thank you for that. I did capture all of those and made sure that they're on the master list. So with that, what I'm going to do is, Cyrus, is there any sort of lead in or anything you want to say to Rachel's overview, or do we just want to jump right in?
Well, I can say something to the context of how this was delivered. So she had delivered this to the city of Seattle. This was right at the end of December. So that was, and they actually let us post it online. I actually trimmed it out, so you can't actually see in the video the beginning and the end of it. So it kind of starts a little abruptly. So I'm just letting you know why it does, because I had to cut out all the participation of the actual users. So that's the only thing for context. It's a little, I wish it was a little cleaner. My Camtasia skills aren't great, but I can use it. So we can get kicked off. She did a great job, and she's actually found a new job since leaving Microsoft, and I communicate with her. So I mentored her for 2 months. It was a very big disappointment to me that she was let go, but she's landed on her feet, and
That's
hopefully she can
awesome.
come back. Hopefully she can come back someday. Typically speaking, and this is some inside baseball, but people come back. It's usually not the end of your days at Microsoft. So
Yeah,
well,
it's really a great place to work, y'all. And we have a really good company culture, and we're going through tough times like everybody, and a lot of people have lost their jobs. Some really good friends, both of Cyrus's and mine, have lost their jobs, and so I feel very fortunate still to be here and to get to work with y'all. But yeah, it's tough times in the corporate big tech world. So
I was actually going to ask her to actually do this live. She was open to doing that, and during the riff period, they extend out, like you're still Microsoft attached for months after you leave, and we couldn't engage her, so it was disappointing. But that's why the video is here from Seattle, and she didn't do it live. We were planning to have her do this as a live event during my community call. So we do have a community call. It's typically every 2 weeks. We're on hiatus right now. I just got back from Indiana, and we're traveling again, so we can't commit to that call. So, but let's
Yeah,
kick
well,
it
when
off.
you get it
We're
going,
ready.
Cyrus, let me know and I'll post it on to our Text Teams community and I'll announce it and get the link and all that kind of stuff. So I do know that there's a huge amount of interest in because a lot of our agencies own Power BI, but they're really not getting
Yeah.
the best use out of it yet in some cases.
Yeah, and I don't tend to talk about things unless they're specific to our government cloud. I don't
Mhm.
like to do things that other people are doing. You can go online and find videos on Power BI and Power Apps, but I always make sure to do it within the context of GCC, because that's where I can add value. You can watch the guys in the cube for other deep dives in technologies, but I want to make sure is is it available in a government cloud, and B, is it unique to GCC? Those are my requirements for my topics. So
Yeah. Well, that's much appreciated because we're all used to all the videos of all the things that we don't have access to. Thank you very much. So, yeah, that's great. Well, let me go ahead and fire this up. I will bring my Teams meeting over to the other window. I've shared out one of my desktop windows. So I'll keep an eye on the chat. If anybody has anything or questions or things, throw them in the chat, and Cyrus can answer some of those. And then if there's ones that we want to answer at the end, then Cyrus can answer those before we go into his live demonstration. Okay, I'll go full screen. Oh, wait a second. Man, rookie mistake number two. When I shared my screen, I don't think I shared audio. So let me go back to that and share it again. And you'd think I'd have it down by now. That's one of the things about PowerPoint Live is you don't have to share your audio. It just does it automatically. So I've gotten out of the habit. Let's see, couldn't share sound. Go to your device's audio settings and select. Okay. Go to
I
your
heard some sound.
devices.
I heard some sound when you clicked on and play, so there was some sound.
Yeah, I think it was actually just because it was playing out of my speakers
Oh
here.
yeah, it didn't sound that good. So yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Okay, here we go. Okay, I just had the wrong sound device selected, so we should be good now. Let's see if it's going to let me now. Okay, perfect. Here it comes. Roll that beautiful bean footage.
When it comes to data. And one way is to bring data directly in.
Can you hear the sound now?
Yeah, I can hear the sound.
All right, perfect.
Into your daily discussions and daily collaborations. And that's why we're going to be talking about Power BI and Teams and utilizing them together to exercise that muscle and work towards those aspirations. And this is extremely relevant when it comes to state and local government, with agencies who want to improve operations and make better, faster decisions using data. So everyone from a snowplow manager in Michigan who's trying to make sure that there's an SLA met for how quickly the streets are plowed, to the commissioner's office who needs to track how state awarded funding is being allocated and used, even to the elections official who within 2 weeks of an election has to share insights about mail-in voting. They all need to access up-to-date data, and the impact that that data can have on improving decision-making in state and local government is vast. So today I'm going to cover a number of topics. First, I'll lay out the case for how a practical day-to-day collaboration-based data culture drives impact. Then I'll give you an example of this and go on to show you the experience with a demo. And basically, in the end, what I hope you can take away from this is that the technical skill and expertise that could have been a barrier in the past for a lot of people when it comes to adopting and using sophisticated reporting tools like Power BI is no longer a barrier. So what is Power BI's goal? It's basically to empower every single individual, team, and organization to use data to make better decisions. And this means providing not only experiences for sophisticated data analysts, but also experiences for the everyday information worker in order to make it practical for them to use data in the flow of their work. And that brings me to the question, what is the future of work? The last 2 to 3 years have represented a huge change for a ton of people as we experience the pandemic. The world is more digital. We're not just sitting around a conference room and talking face-to-face every day. We're online and connecting from different locations, even right now on this call. Paper processes are replaced with digital screens and apps, and every single click or tap on the screen could be producing data. We're monitoring and capturing almost every event that occurs. And with all of these new streams of data comes a new set of expectations. So individuals, teams, and organizations are expected to use this data, be on top of it, and be able to harness it along with the insights that it contains to take the best action and then drive the biggest impact. And this also means that individuals and teams are under tremendous pressure. There's higher expectations, and there's so much data that there's no way a single individual can even absorb it all or understand it all on their own. So utilizing it becomes more of a team effort. It requires everyone in the organization to participate, not just your data analyst anymore or your data scientist, but every manager and every single employee either wants or needs to use this data, stay on top of it, find and share insights, ask questions, and overall drive impact and show results. So this is the new modern way of working, and we need to adopt both the practices and the technology that enable those practices to be efficient, repeatable, and in every part of our day-to-day. This also brings the topic of data culture. So this can be simply described as the practice of using data every day to inform your actions. And this can be relevant to the individual who needs data at their fingertips every day in the flow of their work to stay up to date. Every team, so teams need to be on the same page, and their managers need to be able to make rapid decisions. And organizations, they need to be able to think structurally and strategically about how they're empowering their entire workforce to drive forward using data and encouraging and enabling more people with less technical skill to use that data in their day-to-day activities. And with better data, we can ask better questions. Ones like, what should we do next? What should we stop doing? And are we making sure that we're visibly focused on the most important things? Making sure that there's a clear set of objectives that aren't just qualitative. So for example, instead of just tracking if we plowed the streets last night, maybe what's more important to know is how quickly did we plow the streets? How quickly did we plow the most important streets? And were there any accidents on these streets? So we can use key measures to drive further decision-making, critical thinking, and focus into areas that could be posing the biggest challenges. And all of these things together help organizations build their data culture. And this is where Power BI and Microsoft Teams come in. So Power BI is really just a platform for all of your data, no matter how big or small, sophisticated or simple. And Teams is the best way to collaborate and bring those digital assets directly into where the collaboration takes place. So your chats, your channels, and your meetings, to ensure that everyone's up to date and everyone's informed. And basically, together, it's really about just helping modern organizations be productive using the latest technology and the most up-to-date data. So for my demo today, I'm going to focus on Amanda. She's an operations manager, and her job is to ensure that her agency is operating within budget while meeting agency goals and objectives. And here are some of her pain points. So they include tracking cost containment, driving action to stay in budget, adjusting to overcome unplanned expenses, learning cost implications, sharing meaningful insights with her team regularly, and communicating progress and risks to the commissioner's leadership team. And throughout my demo today, I'll be showing you how the capabilities of Power BI and Teams can alleviate Amanda's needs and or meet her needs and alleviate her pain points. And I'll show you how she can understand the data with easy to use analytics. She's able to set metrics, keep them up to date, and share them with everyone she has to. She can review progress in meetings and figure out what works, and use chat to drive discussion and encourage learning. And she can also share improved strategies with her team. So with that, I'll start my demo. And just a disclaimer, you guys might have access to Power BI with Teams in Teams already, but if you don't, you should soon. And if you realize that down the road you don't have it, you can reference this link here that I put to enable it within your organization. So I'll be sending out this slide deck at the end of this call. But getting into my demo, I'm going to open up Teams. So here I have Teams opened up, and I want to open up Power BI within here. I'm going to go to these three dots on the left-hand pane over here and just click, and right away I can see Power BI, and if I don't, I can search for it, and I click it to open it up. And then I see the icon on this left-hand side. If I want this to stay here, I actually have the ability to right-click and pin it, so it stays there all the time instead of going away when I exit Power BI. So let's get acclimated to this view. We basically have the same capabilities of the Power BI service here within Teams, but I'm going to take you through this top navigation first and what we can find in each of them. So here in the home page, I have my metrics, my apps, and my workspaces, and everything in Power BI that I've recently accessed. So this is Power BI as a whole, not just within Teams. And then this in Teams tab here is going to be the ones that are within Teams. So these are going to be your reports and your scorecards that can actually be pinned to the top of your Teams channels, which I'll show you how to do shortly. I also have the ability to create a new report here in the home page. And if I click this, it actually brings me over to my create page. So within here, I have the ability to copy and paste or manually enter data, or I can pick from a published data set to start building a report. And this brings up all the data sets that I have access to, whether I brought them into Power BI or they've been shared with me. And I'm going to select one to build a report from. And here I have the option to auto create a report or create a blank one. And I'm going to auto create one. Just a little background on this data set. It's basically different levels of educational attainment of the state of Pennsylvania, broken down by county and different age groups and by gender as well. So as you can see, just like that, with a click of a single button, I have a report staring back at me. I have a quick summary and 4 visuals showing me data, as well as a word summary right here describing in words what's going on in this data. And maybe I think this looks good so far, but I want to add some visualizations to this. I can do so by just clicking this edit button right here. And it's going to switch me to edit mode. And this is going to bring up a view that's very similar to what you're going to see in Power BI Desktop. And maybe I'm entirely new to Power BI. I'm not a data analyst. I don't know what these icons are doing. I don't know how to build my visuals to see what I want or what fields to pull in. I can actually use this ask a question feature right here. But first, I ran out of room on this report page, so I'm going to add a new page by clicking new page down here. And getting back to this feature, I can just click this ask a question button, and it's going to pull up the Q&A feature of Power BI, which can also be accessed with this icon right here. And this is going to allow me to type in exactly what I want, and Power BI is going to build the visualization for me. So maybe I want to see the total amount of people with post-secondary degrees broken down by county. I can just start typing. And just like that, with only 2 letters typed, Power BI is already suggesting to me what it thinks I want to see. So total post-secondary degree, and I want to break this down by county. Once again, it suggests to me what I want. And just like that, I have a bar chart breaking down the total number of post-secondary degrees by county. And I want to add this to my report page, so I can go in and click this icon right here to turn this Q&A result into a standard visual. And maybe I want to add another visual. And this time I want to see the average number of people that don't have a high school diploma. And I want to break that down by county once again. So I can just start typing. And once again, Power BI suggests to me what I want. And I'm going to continue typing this. And maybe this time I don't want a bar chart, but maybe I want a pie chart. I could just come over here and click pie chart via this icon, or I can just continue typing and tell it that I want to see it as a pie. And I'm going to click the same exact icon as last time to add it to my page. And just like that, it's shown as a pie chart, and I have 2 complete visualizations that I just added to my page by simply typing what I wanted to see. They're both formatted with a title. This one has labels on the axes. This one has a label, and legend and data labels here. And I didn't even have to go into my format pane. I mean, if I wanted to, I could change this and turn off labels if I wanted to, but I didn't have to pull any of these fields in. I just told the Q&A visual what I wanted to see, and I was able to make these 2 visualizations with basically no technical heavy lift at all. But yeah. Now I'll go back to my create page, and we also have this ability to analyze our team's data. So this is basically just going to give you an out-of-the-box report when it comes to all your data within Teams. And we see these 3 tabs: My Activity, Team Activity, and Team Activity Details. And this is my demo tenant, so these examples are a little dry. I'm going to go back to my slides and show you screenshots of my actual Teams data. So here in my activity tab, I have my meeting data and my messaging data, and even the amount of time that I spent sharing audio and video and sharing my screen. And this is showing the last 31 days, but I'm also able to change that if I'd like as well. Going into the team activity tab, this is going to come up with all of the teams that I'm a part of and show data relating to them. So the posts and replies, active users, guests, channels, etc. And then this team's activity details tab is going to allow me to select one of those teams to look at in more depth. And it's going to come up with these 2 visualizations of active users and engagement, and even a word summary. So this tells me what the most active day was, or when the highest engagement was, and things like that. So going back into my teams, this browse tab is just going to come up with all the things that you have access to within Power BI. And it also breaks it down into what was shared with you and within Teams. And then this data tab, this data hub tab, is going to focus primarily on your data sources. And you can also create a report from this tab as well. So maybe I want to make a report using this human resources data source. I can just click it, And it brings me to this page. So I can see there's already a report that's been made utilizing this data source. But if I want to make a new one, I have the ability to do so here. And I can click this drop down. And once again, I have the option to either auto create one, start from scratch, or even show it as a formatted table. This tab also gives me the ability to share out my data sets. So I can just enter anyone's name or email and grant them access to the data source this way. And another useful feature on this page is this tables pane here on the right. So this is going to come up with all of the tables in my data source and allow me to select them and pull them up right here within Power BI in Teams. And I can inspect my data this way instead of having to open up my data source. Maybe it's a huge data source and takes forever to load, or it's hard to get to and open up, or I don't have access to it on my local machine. I can open it up right in here. And last but not least, we have this Learn tab, which is basically going to be a one-stop shop for anything self-help and just a bunch of resources that you can utilize. So here I have these short videos I can watch to learn more. I can open up Microsoft Learn to read about certain topics in Power BI. I can look at the documentation of Power BI, open up the community, and I even have these sample reports here to open up and play around with, and basically just see the art of the possible when it comes to Power BI. I also want to shout out this training section right here. So here I have the ability to register for a webinar or a dashboard in a day, where I spend the whole day learning how to create a dashboard. But yeah, so that's just a breakdown of the navigation when it comes to this view inside of Teams. But now I'm going to get to the meat of my demo, which is showing you some ways to utilize Power BI within Teams for more data-driven collaboration and discussion. So I'm going to go down to this data down here, and here I can connect to any data source, but today I'm going to use a sample. And here I have all of these samples creating multiple different scenarios. And going back to Amanda, the operations manager, she wants to track costs. So I'm going to use this IT spend analysis sample. Just click into it and connect. And here I have a report and data set. I'm going to go into this report. Here I have my pages on the left-hand side, and I'm going to look at this page. And maybe just right off the bat, I'm seeing what I'm looking at here, and I see the variance plan by sales region. Maybe I want to change this to show variance plan by VP and maybe a different type of visualization. I can actually do so by personalizing the visuals inside my report. And to do so, I can focus on these icons here. So right now I have the ability to pin the visual, copy it, see the filters that are applied to it, or pull it into focus mode, but I'm not seeing the ability to personalize it. That's because I need to turn on the setting to allow me to do so. So I'm going to close this out, make sure I'm in the workspace that my report is in, hit these three dots here, go to settings, and then scroll down until I find what I want, which is this option to personalize visuals. And this is going to allow report readers to personalize visuals to suit their needs. So I'm going to toggle this on and hit save and go back into my report, back into the page that I was looking at. And here you see a new icon. It's this little pencil with the column chart. And this is the ability to personalize your visual. So I'm going to click onto this, and here I can change the type of visual I'm looking at. So maybe I want to see a pie chart. And like I said, I wanted to see the variance plan by VP instead of sales region. So I can go in and find VP. And just like that, I've personalized my visual to my preference of how I wanted to see it. And this is useful exactly for that. So say you have the default view of a report, but you want to personalize it to how you want to view the data. Or maybe you want to play around and see if you can find something that maybe the default view isn't really showing. You can do so by personalizing your visuals. And I can actually do this to every visual on the page. And maybe I wanted to be able to close this out and reopen it later and revisit my personalized visuals. Well, it would be a little tedious if I went in and personalized every single one and closed it out and had to open it and do it all again. I don't need to worry about this because I can make a personal bookmark. I'm going to go to this bookmark icon over here, click it, and I have the option to add a personal bookmark. I can change the name to VAR Plan by VP, and I even have the ability to make this my default view. So say I prefer to always view the report with my personalizations instead of the default view. I can make my personalizations the default view. But I'm going to save this, and just to show you, when I reset, go back to the default view, I can revisit my bookmark just like that, and it makes my changes for me again. So going back to Amanda, I am analyzing cost, and this visual here is showing my cost overrun, my actual cost overrun, compared to my expected cost overrun. And my expected is this darker color here. So me being Amanda, having to analyze cost, this is a huge red flag to me. So I want to figure out what is causing this huge overrun in cost. So I can start by maybe trying to click on infrastructure and filter it that way, but I see this just highlights the data that is relevant to infrastructure. So it's not exactly what I want. I'm going to come over here to these slicers, and I can filter my data using these. So I can select infrastructure, and now as you see, I'm only seeing data that's pertaining to infrastructure. And maybe I want to try to figure out the biggest contributor to this overrun in cost by using this cost element group slicer. And I'll also look at this visual as well, because the positive percentage is going to show an overrun in cost, and then the negative percentages are going to be fine and nothing to worry about. So I'm keeping an eye on that. And I could go through all of these and try to figure out what is making up my costs, but it's not really breaking it down the way I want. But I'm going through and I say, oh my goodness, this overrun is almost 1700%. I need to research this further, figuring out what is going on. And immediately I want to send this to a colleague. A colleague has to see this and be able to review it further, research it further, and tell me what's happening here. So I'm able to do so by hitting this share button here. And as you see, it's already selected by default. I have this ability to include my changes. So this is going to allow any changes like filter selections, which I have in this case, visual personalizations. So what I just did when I made a personal bookmark that was just for myself, I can also personalize my visuals and send them out to other people by using this, and drilling and more. So I'm going to share this out to a colleague by hitting copy link. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to go to my chat, and I'm going to tell her, please review this in further detail and get back to me. And I can go in and just copy or paste my link. Maybe I want it to look a little nicer, so I'm going to say infrastructure cost overrun. And I can insert this link, send it to her, and then when she receives this and clicks this link, she's going to open up the same exact view that I was just looking at. So as you can see here, I have the same filters selected. If I had sent her this with a personalization on it, she would see that as well. Okay, now going back into my report. So I'm going to go back to this page. And as I was saying, I wasn't really getting what I wanted. I wanted to break down this infrastructure cost and see what was contributing the most to my overrun in cost. I can actually do this with one of the specific type of visualizations within Power BI. So I want to edit this and add a new page so I can add the visualization to the report. Go in once again and hit this edit button with the pencil. And maybe on my new page, I want to add this visual as well. I can, and keep the same format maybe. I can just go in and right click, hit duplicate page, and it'll come up as a duplicate. And maybe I want to name this amount decomp for amount decomposition. And now I can just get rid of all the things that I don't want on this page anymore. But when I change the name of this, I can just double click in here once again and say amount decomposition. And maybe before I do my decomposing of amounts, I want to include one of those word summaries that we saw earlier that describes in words what's happening in the data. I can, if I don't know how to make a new visualization, no worries. I can just right click on here, copy visual, Control V, paste, move it down here, and I can select Smart Narrative. So this is going to be your visualization that you select when you want a word summary of your data. And just like that, I have a few sentences summarizing my data. I can go in here and add a title if I want. So trend summary. I can bold this if I want. Or as I'm reading it, I see that these two sentences are almost the same. It's a little repetitive. I can remove one if I want. And there, now I have a couple sentences describing the trend in my data. Now getting down to my breaking down of my costs and figuring out what the biggest contributor is. I can use what's called a decomposition tree, and it's this visual right here, this icon. I'm gonna add it to my report, make it a little bigger. And here I see these two fields, analyze and explain by. So this type of visual is going to be extremely useful when it comes to anything that's made up of multiple parts, like cost or consumption, things like that, that have a lot of things that make up a total. And those different things are different amounts and different proportions. So just like this, I want to see what specific thing is contributing the most to my cost overrun. So I'm going to analyze my cost, which is going to be this actual calculation here. And I want to explain it first by business area. And then I want to explain it even further by cost element group. And instead of just checking this box here, I can even drag and drop. And then lastly, I want to break it down one more level deeper by cost element name. And then I see here, so the way that the decomposition tree visual works is you're going to expand these and it's going to make columns over here. So I don't really have enough room on my report page for this. I'm going to pull this into focus mode by clicking this icon right here. And what this is going to do is basically allow the visual to take up the entire page for the time being. And to break down my amount, I'm going to hit this plus sign right here and choose what I want to break it down by. So first, I want to do business area. As we can see, infrastructure is the biggest contributor to my costs. And then I'm going to break it down once again by cost element group. And now I see that labor is the biggest contributor to my infrastructure costs. I'm going to break it down one more time. And here we have it. The biggest contributor is my outsourced labor. So that is going to be what's contributing the most to this cost overrun. And now that I've identified that, I know what is the biggest contributor to my cost. Now I want to make sure that this cost overrun is decreasing over time and getting closer and closer to that expected value that we saw that it was compared to. I can do this with metrics. So right here in the home tab, this is where I can find metrics. I'm going to create a new scorecard. I'm going to name this infrastructure costs. And I'm going to name this infra cost containment. And here I can add owners, but the main thing I'm going to do is set up my current value and my target that I want to reach. So I could put this in manually, but I also have the ability to connect right to my data. So I'm going to select this connect to data option and choose the report that I want to connect to. And I'm going to go into that visual that I saw, the overrun, and I can just click right here. And now my current value is connected right to that data. And I could do the same thing for my target. But me being Amanda, I know that we're halfway into the fiscal year, and this would be a goal of 10, almost 10, going down from almost 50. And I don't know if that's exactly attainable for me and my team. So I'm going to choose to just manually put this in. So I want our final target to be 20%. Maybe our fiscal year ends at the end of June. I can set that up that way. And but maybe I think that's a ways away, and I want to be tracking this over time. I want to make sure that, I don't know, if my value is not going to be magically 20% on the 30th of June. I want to make sure that over the time leading up to that, my target is going down. I actually have the ability to set up multiple targets. So I'm going to drop down here and select this option for multiple targets. So yeah, my final target is 20%, but maybe let's say in a month, I want it to be down to 40%. And then I want this value to be down to 30% by April. And then lastly, our final target, I want to meet by 6/30/2023. And then lastly, we have statuses. So this is just going to be 6 different options you have to set your status. So obviously we're behind on this one. Also, we have the ability to edit these. So these are just the default selections, the default colors, and the default words. So overdue, behind, at risk, what have you. You can actually go in and change any of these if you see fit. So if behind doesn't really fit for your data, you can go in and change that. I also have the ability to not only manually select these, but set up rules if I want to. So maybe if the value is greater than 40, I want the status to be behind. And if it's greater than 30, but less than 40, I want it to say at risk. I'm able to do so right in here. Okay, so I'm done creating my metric. I'm going to save this and then go into the note. So it's going to be this icon right here, and it's going to pull up my details. So here I have my progress shown in this visual. I'm going to toggle on this show targets option. And now I can see my progress compared to not only just my final target, but my milestones as well. And I can drill down into a specific day if I want. And then I have this history tab, which is going to show me all the values of this metric, the status that it was at that value, and who changed it and when. Here I can view my rules again if I implemented them. But most importantly, I have this time period tab. So right now it's set to no cycle, and I'm just showing the change between the last 2 data points. But maybe I want this to change monthly or yearly. I want it to show year over year or month over month. I can choose this cycle over cycle option. I also have the option for cycle to date as well. But I'm going to choose this, and maybe I want to meet with my team weekly and review this value. I can choose weekly. Maybe I want to meet with my team on Tuesdays. I can have the metric update on Tuesdays as well, and that will be the interval. So every Tuesday will be when the metric is updated. You can go in and save that. And now I've created my metric on my scorecard, and it's time to share this out with my team. So I'm going to hit the share button and copy link once again, and I'm going to save that in my pocket for the second thing that I'm showing you. But first, I'm going to show you how you can pin a scorecard to the top of your Teams channel. So here I'm within my team, and I'm in my channel. I can hit this plus sign to add a tab. And here I can see that I'm able to connect to Power BI, and it's going to come up with all my workspaces. And there's my scorecard. I can also add entire reports to be pinned to channels as well. But this is what I want to add to my channel. And just like that, at the top of my channel, I have access to my scorecard right within Teams. And let's go back to when I copied that link and when I mentioned that I want to meet with my team every Tuesday to review this metric. I can go over here in the top right-hand corner, hit this drop down, hit schedule a meeting. Maybe I want this to be called review scorecard. I can invite any of the attendees that I want. I can set it to repeat weekly on Tuesdays. And here I can, once again, paste my link and name it so it's nice and pretty. And now when I send out this meeting invite and everyone receives it, they're also going to receive this link to the scorecard as well. And it's as easy as that. So I will go back to my slides. And here I have an example of a more filled out scorecard. So here we see multiple metrics. Some have sub-metrics related to them, which you're able to do. And this is going to come up when there's any updates or comments made on a metric. Here I see that I have multiple owners, my status, the value, and what it looks like when it's over time. I also have these spark lines here, which are generated once we have values over time as well, and we can see our progress. But yeah, we're running up on time, I guess, so this is all I have for you today. I could spend all day showing you all of the great capabilities when it comes to Power BI and Teams, but hopefully now you have a good idea and some neat tricks and practices in your back pocket that are really relevant when it comes to using Power BI and Teams for more data-driven discussions and collaborations. But yeah, I don't know if there's been any questions in chat, but if you have any, feel free to come off mute now and ask them if you haven't already. And if not, thank you guys for your time. Now back to my call. So what am I going to be talking about and why should
All right, let me stop sharing here. Well, that was really good. I can see, Cyrus, why you said this is this is a good one to show. So why don't I saw a question in the chat from Roxy. She said that she found the Power BI app, but doesn't see visualizations. And has this changed? Cyrus, any thought on that?
I don't know what that you're referring to. So if we could see your screen or talk it
Roxy, you
through,
want to
I
share
don't
your
know what that,
screen?
don't know what that means.
Well,
And
I
if
saw the visualizations in the video, and I haven't been able to find it. I couldn't tell you where exactly.
Wait,
I'm
when she edits a report,
right.
Cyrus, maybe what we can do is you can just show us on your screen, like as you go through your demo, maybe just focus on how you get to the
let me
visuals
pull
from.
that up. So if we went to, I just want to, visuals is a very generic term. That's why I'm trying to get an idea of what you mean by that. But I'm going to assume you mean visuals when you edit a report. So if a report gets, you create a report, and let's just take this report right here. And then if I have, first of all, permissions and licensing, those are two things that are required, you will see a button on the page called Edit. Edit gives you the ability to modify your report, and then you will see the visualizations pane. But you only see that if you go into the edit mode of a report or the creation mode of a report within Power BI. But again, permissions and licensing are going to be a factor as well. Is
Does
that
that
what you're?
help, Roxy?
Well, I don't know. Is it possible that because I don't actually have any live environments, I only have test or sample environments, that I'm not seeing this content? Because I'm still not seeing the visualizations features that you just pointed out.
Do you have a report? Do you see any reports whatsoever?
So let's see. I can share.
Okay.
So this is what I'm seeing.
Okay.
And the closest I came to visualizations was my data. I don't see anything that actually resembles visualizations like you just showed,
That was
or like
automated. So that was an automated report, right? That they created the automated report. You hit your back button and do a report from scratch. I'm not sure if the automated version of that, or hit the Power BI. Go to your.
the new report. That's what I just clicked.
Go to your data hub up in the top. Middle, right in the middle is data hub. Right in the middle top there, next to browse. This is great. Browse.
Oh,
There's
that
data
one.
hub. There you go. Yeah. All right, now scroll down a bit. And just click that first data, so whatever data set you want to try this with.
We want to be careful. We don't want to show Roxy any of your data on our screen. So, and this is being recorded, so we don't want to accidentally
Oh,
show
okay.
something.
Okay.
But if you created a report there, then Cyrus, that would be where she might be able to go in then.
Well, it says, just create a report down below. You hit the drop down, and you're going to create a blank report. So you don't have to show any. You don't have to show anything. It's just start from scratch. Just won't expose any data.
Oh,
There's your
there
visual.
it is.
There you go.
There we go. Now
I
don't
think
click anything, Roxy.
the automated experience doesn't really give you. I think you have to save that and then go back and edit it. So that might have been the step that we needed to take. I don't use that feature too often. I'll be honest. I don't find the automatic reports to be as meaningful as I need them to be. Let's put it that way. The AI hasn't figured all that out yet. So thank God. We have a job still.
That's right. We still
Thank
got a
you
job,
both.
right, Cyrus? At least for this week.
Jennifer had her hand raised a moment ago.
Yeah, Jennifer. It's down now. So, Jennifer, if you got a question, feel free to come off mute and ask a question. And why don't we go ahead? And I'm actually not seeing her in here unless she's sorted by last name. So, Cyrus, why don't you go ahead with your content and y'all raise your hand or just come off mute. And, we're casual here. So feel free to ask questions and I'll hand it over to Cyrus.
All right. So this is something I did about a year ago when we introduced the idea of the entitlement features of Teams in for the Power Platform components. And when I say Power Platform, I mean biz apps type of things like Power Apps, they call them Cloud Flows, Dataverse, those kinds of componentry within Teams. So if we go into your apps and go look for Power App, I already have it pinned here, but you go look for Power Apps, and you'll see that'll get you the through gateway into this world here. We can see over on the side, we have the ability to create new things. And here we can create an app or a card. I specifically need to build out some other things. So you'll see on the left-hand pane, I have the ability to create cloud flows, tables, and some other and apps within this experience. So within Teams, there's a limited amount of functionality that we can create. Actually, it's quite a bit. I mean, if you were using Access in the past, you can quite easily replace those apps that you created in, or those forms you created in Access as an app in Teams, and had a very lightweight, self-service type of experience. In this particular scenario, I was looking for a way to create what's called a data-driven subscription. So in the world of paginated reports, there was an idea at one time or a feature that existed and didn't quite come over to our cloud service that I could trigger a report to be sent to someone based on a data variable, and that's what I wanted to recreate. And in this, I'm not making anything that is rocket science. All I have is a radio switch or a on-off switch. Says it's either on or off, and just think of that as what we call a trigger. A trigger is just a mechanism to make something happen within a database. And when you want to have a database do something based on an event, not based on a time event, but based on a data event, maybe a threshold going over a certain amount. You have a particular rule. When one field here gets updated, then I send out the alert, and that's kind of what this scenario was. So what I did in the Power Apps interface here with these tables here is I created a new table. So that's pretty straightforward. If I want to create a table, I have the ability to do so, and I can store data there. That's the essence of what we want. We need a place where we can store data that will persist over time and have some rule sets to it. If we do this in Excel or a SharePoint list, it's not going to be as robust. SharePoint, while you can use a SharePoint list, and I used to do that a lot, the data types and the flexibility of it, quickly you run into limitations on the length, the size, and being able to make your data types strong. So I'm going here with what we call our data verse. I created what we call a subscription table. So the subscription table has a number of columns in it, and the base column here is I have an email address of the user that needs to have the subscription. I have is it active or not active field here. I have the file format of what I like to send off to those users. This shows some metadata about when was it modified, who was the owner, things of that nature, who modified it, who created that record. And then we have a few other fields here. Most importantly are going to be these fields right here where we have report name and workspace name. I did this very quickly and on the fly, so I could have made this more elegant where I have another table that has a list of the reports and their associated GUIDs. But suffice it to say, the time that I built this out, I just wasn't able to wire that all together. But 2.0 or the next version, I would make it a little more elegant. However, in order to get those GUIDs, you would just go into the URL in Power BI. So Power BI has two GUIDs that you can take a look at. The first GUID is after the word groups here. So that's your workspace GUID. That's needs to be referenced in what I'm going to do for the export of the file to PDF. And then I also want the report GUID. So that's it. That's going to be important as well. So again, not too friendly and readable, but they do the trick for what it is we're trying to do. All right, so we get to that first part where we have now the table that's going to store the data. I'm not going to actually put any data in there. I'm not going to, it's going to be a blank table to start with. I have values in here already, but typically you create the columns. Then we need to create an app for people to put their data in. So that was the next piece of it. I just created a simple app. This is the data-driven subscription. Typically, you can create these apps with very, very easily. I even think that I just use the default creation methodology here, and it just puts your labels, your values on the page, and very simple. I think I have a rule here for this field. I'm using a function, get the user's email address. So I'm getting my email address, whoever's interacting with this. So we pre-populate it, assume that the person filling out the form wants to get the subscription. So this is a self-service type of scenario. The users can go sign up and decide whether or not they want to get this report subscription. We have another field, these drop downs for the report name. It's a choice field, and the workspace name, another choice field. And then finally, we have the file format. And in this scenario, I just have PDF. I could actually put more in there, but I think, again, this is just kind of showing you a minimal viable product. Once that's completed, I can even go in here and preview the app. So there's some buttons over here for saving and previewing. Preview the app, and now we can see I'm a user. I'm going to come in, create a new record, and it's going to give me some blank fields. I have a couple choices for the reports I want to make. Select those. Again, a more elegant scenario would have a lookup table that would populate that for you based on a report name. So here I would save that record. I'm not going to do it, but that's the basic app for filling out this table. I can even take this one step further, and I have, if I want to put it into a pinned app in Teams, I can do so here as well. So now within Teams, I can just create pin the app using the functionality within Teams. So now I've created the app, I populated the table, and now we need to create a workflow that's going to check that table and do it on a consistent basis. So for my scenario here, I decided that I wanted to just run this workflow every hour. Back to my Power Apps experience. And that's the final piece, is I'm going to want to create what they call a cloud flow. So again, I can connect to things with an Office 365. There's no additional licensing, at least for Power Apps, that's required for this. And I'm going to create this, or not create, but edit this daily or hourly subscription. And it's just going to run every hour, and it's going to check. Hold on. It's going to check the status of that table. Flows. There we go. Edit this flow. And this situation, it's a 3-step. Well, it's got a couple steps. I'll walk through it. So we have a recurrence. I'm running it every hour. I'm going to iterate through all of the rows in that table. So we pick the subscriptions table, and then I'm going to loop through and grabbing a value, the value from the subscription. I think that's the, no, it's just going to look, it's going to loop through each row. So it's passing the output of that row, complete output. And I'm going to check the condition. Oh, the highlight didn't stay. You can see the highlight there. I'll hover over on it. That's for the active subscription field. So if that's set to yes, then we are going to export to file, the Power BI report, where the workspace GUID and the report GUID all matches the table that I set up. So in here, these are the variables that I passed through. Those are captured from that table. They go into this export to file. Be aware that the export to file does require you to have invested in a premium capacity. So that is one spot where you need licensing. You don't need Power Apps licensing, but Power BI licensing is required for that particular activity. Then we take that Power BI file and we are going to email it to the email address that was in that table. And we're going to update a row saying, hey, I have another table that says, when was that sent out? So we have a history of, how often it was sent out, and if it was successful. We want to know that people got their report, so they don't come back to us and say they never got it. So that is the workflow. And if we go into my email box, we'll see here that I have a number of reports. I actually forgot to turn it off. It's been on for like a year. I can't imagine how many. My inbox is 31,000. It's kind of funny. And the report that I actually picked at the time was I no longer have it active, so it doesn't look all that great. But I did this project for the city of Seattle, and unfortunately the data connections for that broke. But that's the idea. I was trying to fix that up a little bit before Rachel's video was ending, but I think in general you get the idea of what we can do with the entitlements in Teams, how we can connect that with Power BI, and make it so that we can do things that the product doesn't do today. So that's one of the areas that I like to focus on, is being able to get around or supplement our product in these areas where we don't quite have the technology that we used to have on-prem in our cloud offering. Any questions, any feedback? I hope that was useful and gave you some more art of the possible. That was the intent of that question.
Yes.
Well, if we don't
Cyrus, I
have any
know-
other quick,
I was going to say, I know that with this community, we've had multiple people kind of jump in and teach themselves. I remember when Judy was just getting started with Power Apps and is now building apps and solving business challenges. And so, if y'all had even a scenario y'all wanted to talk through, like, we have this report that we do, and right now it's in a spreadsheet, or we're cutting and pasting and putting it into a PowerPoint, or we're manually creating something. If someone had a scenario they even wanted to talk through, we have some time here where we could talk through a little scenario and pick Cyrus's brain about ways we could do things. So feel free to raise your hand, come off mute, no pressure, but we are here to answer questions.
if there aren't any questions, there's something I do want to talk about that's coming up that's important. So
Yeah, why don't
we
you start
have
with that?
we have we have something called Microsoft Build that's coming up here in the next couple of weeks. I'm not sure if you've advertised that, but I just put some links in the chat. So this is going to be a hybrid event. You can go in person, which if you haven't already signed up, I'm pretty sure you're not going. Or you can attend online and watch the recordings after the fact. So there'll be some keynotes here. It will include some Power BI elements. However, the session in particular that I want to point out will be, let's see, what day is this on? This is on May 23rd. It'll be a bit after hours for you, I think 6 o'clock Central. However, this should be recorded, so you can register for this. This is the VP of our Synapse and Power BI that will be speaking, and they're going to showcase the next generation of Power BI, what we're going to expect moving forward in the future. Product hasn't really changed significantly since I've been working with it, and as of today, I took my first training on the Gen 2 technology, and I think it will really impress anyone who really wants to work with data, work with it in a way that doesn't have a lot of roadblocks. It is a fully web-based experience. You will not be using the desktop client anymore. So that is one of the big barriers. I just was in the state of Indiana 2 days ago, and we did what we call a dashboard a day class. And that focuses on the Power BI desktop and how to use it in order to build a report. And then at the end, the last 5 minutes, well, not 5 minutes, but the last part of that class, then you publish that report to the cloud. In this new scenario or version of our product, it will be a completely web-based experience. You're not only going to be working with Power BI, but also elements of Azure, Synapse, pipelines, and otherwise. It'll all be a mixed experience. So I'm not able to show you anything. I'm still under NDA internally, but I would encourage you to look at that and see what the future of business intelligence is, because I was impressed with Power BI when it came out. I mean, I'm not saying that's because I work for Microsoft. I mean, that's a reason why I left my previous job that I was comfortable with to put my neck out on the line with Microsoft Business Intelligence products, because I'll be honest, my career is littered with failed Microsoft Business Intelligence products. I'll be quite transparent on that. I mean, every stinker of a product that Microsoft created, I tried to make work, right? So other than Excel, which I think that's probably our most successful business intelligence product, but Power BI is a quick runner-up, and I think that what we're offering next is going to be very similar to what you just saw in that Teams experience, where everything's consolidated in a single area. I don't have to go log in somewhere, set up an environment. I'm not going to have to know what my Azure subscription is. I don't know. I don't have to provision a resource and deal with networking. All that's going to be, hidden behind, the environment where it's been pre-provisioned, and then you now have the flexibility and freedom to really use these tool sets without without being constrained beyond what people turn on and off for you to be able to use. But permissions, there's always licensing and permissions, and what you can do is a mix of both of those.
Yeah, I love that. I've heard Excel called the most used database on the planet.
Oh wait, hold on. I can't show this stuff here. Hold on. These pages can't be opened. My bad.
Is that the stuff you're not supposed to share with us, Cyrus?
Yeah, I like all the tabs up there. Like, those are more generic, but there's a name for the product. I'm not allowed to say the name of the product. So
All right.
That's the NDA part. So I'm hoping that what you're whistling up to maybe check out not only the full event, but at least a session for Power BI. I'll be totally honest. I don't expect it to land in GA. We don't have a date for it. GA probably won't be till the end of the year, and then government cloud availability. I don't know. I don't know when, but I've been told it will be in government cloud, but I've yet to see it. So I always seeing is believing kind of person. So when I see it in government cloud, I'll be the first to have it promoted, but I can't expect it not to be. So that's what I have to say for that today.
Yeah. I did put some different links into the chat. And so, Cyrus, if you don't mind dropping you already did. I'm sorry. The link to the build sessions in chat. I also put in there the link to the video that Rachel did for Power BI and Teams. And then there's a YouTube channel called Modern Work Superheroes. Really good content on this YouTube channel, and they did a session on Power BI. It was about a year ago, but that's still super current. Now, this is not GCC specific, so there may be something they show. One of the things I really like about what Cyrus does is he only shows you what you are going to have. So there may be something on there that you see, but with it being a year ago, maybe not. And then the other thing I put in here is if you were here last month, we talked about some of the available learning resources, and Microsoft Learn is one of those. And let me share my screen real quick here, because what I did is I went out to Microsoft Learn, just learn.microsoft.com, and I typed in Power BI. And so all of these things came up on here. And so if I go, let me see if I didn't check this, but I didn't try this, but it doesn't look like there's a particular, okay. Yeah, so I typed in Power BI Teams. Here's create a report from data in Microsoft Teams, add the Power BI app to Teams. So all of this stuff is available in Microsoft Learn. So there's 10 pages of content of things that you can learn about how to use Power BI. So don't feel like you need to be an expert, or that you need someone inside your organization to be an expert. One of the wonders about wonderful things about Power BI is that it really helps to what we call democratize data. And so if you have access to the data, then you can visualize it. Now, you just be cognizant that if you are creating reports and you have anything like PII or HIPAA data or anything like that, maybe make sure that you take lessons on how to share securely, so you don't accidentally mess up and share something that you shouldn't. But your security team can help you with that and make sure that you don't have access to something you shouldn't. But a lot of times, what I found is that because of some of the confusion early on with setting up SharePoint permissions, some people have access to things they shouldn't. And so we've all heard the kind of nightmare stories about search finding something like the executive director's pay negotiation document or something, just be careful. You may have access to stuff you shouldn't be sharing. And so think it through before you go and post it somewhere. And maybe just check with your manager or something. Let's see, let me go back to the slide deck. I have a couple of other things that I wanted to share with you all. So I'll go back to PowerPoint Live.
I just want to say just quick, I put a link into
Thanks,
the presentation I just did was a very condensed version of something I did that was longer and more detailed. So that video, I put that link into chat with more detail and more examples if you want to actually build exactly what I showcased.
Awesome, thank you, Cyrus. Yeah, and that's one of the things about YouTube and this blog that Cyrus put is there is so much information out there that is available to show you how to do a particular thing, and you don't have to go to some like hour-long training or all-day training, but just do these kind of micro trainings. Like I want to figure out how to do this. And if you do go to some of the longer trainings, it might show you something that would inspire you, like, hey, I'd like to learn how to do that. And then you can just start putting it together. This stuff really is quite approachable. And I will say the skill to be able to use Power BI, and Cyrus, I think you backed me up here. I remember back in the day, back in like 2005, I was telling anybody that would listen, learn SharePoint. You'll have a job for the rest of your life. And so I would probably say the same thing for Power BI is learn Power BI. That'll increase your pay grade.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. The technology behind Power BI has been around for more years than Power BI. Under the hood, it's actually something called tabular analysis services. So I learned that very early in my career and was able to, that's where DAX really was born. And that had a piece of that was in SharePoint called Power Pivot. So those engines that run everything in Power BI is all tabular cubes. So, that technology, having known it, made it very easy for me to acclimate to Power BI. But it's not going away. It's number one. It's been number one forever, and it's definitely something that when your coworkers see something you build in that, they're gonna want to participate in whatever you're doing. It really a visual experience is much better than a tabular experience.
Yeah, it really is. A couple of things I just want to provide some reminders of things that we talked about in previous sessions. I did put a link in the chat. This is the GCC feature guide for teams. So this is updated weekly. One of my coworkers does this, and it really is a labor of love. And so the link to this is in the chat, but it goes through what features are coming, what have been released, describes those features and how they're used. So for all of you who are champions inside your organization, this is a really great thing to have. Now, we do the best we can with knowing when something is going to come out. So I wouldn't get people super excited about something and say, like, it's coming next week. The roadmap says it's coming next week. Just, it's coming when it comes. And I hate to say that because that's lame, but just don't stake anything like, oh, we're going to do this project starting next week because Microsoft said this feature is going to be available. Don't do that. It'll get there, but sometimes it takes a little while.
Never do that. So what funny fact, I used to work for my local county, and back when Power BI first came out in GCC, I had a project that we were going to buy Power BI Premium in GCC. Went through the budget, got it approved, went through the board, built out the whole architecture. And the day that we got the funding, Power BI Premium and GCC is not available. So I had to fall back to using SharePoint on-prem, and and then I complained constantly. And so the feedback I got was, you complain so much, we have to hire you.
We got to shut this guy up. Get him on the inside.
Yeah, that was basically what he said. One of the CSAs, like, you complain too much, we had to hire you. So that was it.
That's awesome. The other request I have for y'all, please fill out the form for Mark Leavenworth. The DIR really does value the feedback on the programs that they help sponsor, and so let's just rally around Mark and get him the data he needs to support the work that he's doing in his job, because he does a great job supporting this community. So let's support him. So the link to that form is also in the chat, but here it is on your screen, and you can click it. And then one other thing is, this will be included, the Teams Accessibility Feature Guide. I sent it out last month in the PDF that was the slide deck. And what I did is I went ahead and kept it in there for this month as well. And so this is a whole feature guide on accessibility features in Teams. And so it goes through literally and just gives you one after the next of exactly how to use all these accessibility features. Harry Jack is my teammate who built this. Again, another labor of love. And so I just would love for y'all to help the people inside your organization use Teams in a more accessible way. Help the people in your organization who might have an accessibility challenge to understand how to use Teams more effectively. And there's just all the information you need. It's, oh gosh, it's 15. It's like 35 slides worth of content on all these features. And we've come a long way. It's not perfect, but we're getting better. And so just would ask y'all to spread the word on that.
How many folks would want to maybe see a presentation on Power BI accessibility? Is that something that comes up? Do you have that need?
That would be maybe some thumbs up on that. Yep, I'm seeing a couple of hands go up.
Okay.
That would be really cool. I know. So Esther is at HHS, and they have a really strong accessibility lead, Mike Moore, and so we could do that here.
Yeah.
And so
Okay.
why don't we do that? That would be really cool, because in the past, Power BI was not super accessible, and I know they also have worked very hard to improve that.
Yeah, so just a fun fact, but a fact. I tried to do an accessibility demo, and when you don't need to use the features, it's hard for a person to demonstrate adequately the the complexities that someone who does have a disability has when using a product. So we do have a gal on staff they hired. She doesn't have any use of her arms, and she does the whole demo through Dragon Natural Speaking, and it's pretty incredible. So
Wow.
I'll see if I can get her to join your meeting. I'm not going to be tomorrow, but how often do you have this again?
It's once a month, and I do not have a topic for next month. We do have a list of topics that we are working through, and so but if we wanted to maybe take 30 minutes to show those capabilities,
Yeah,
that
let's
would
see
be
what her
awesome.
schedule is and her availability. But she did a demo for the state of California, so state of Texas should be equal. It's Texas equal to California.
I like that. So so far we've done approvals in Teams and Power BI integration. So we have a list of other things that way back in January, I think it was, that we talked about that we could do. I think SharePoint integration and automations was another popular topic. Does anybody have, like, in addition to what we just talked about with the accessibility for Power BI, does anybody else have another topic from this list or different that you want to throw into the chat and just say, hey, let's add it to the list or make sure we cover that? Feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll monitor the chat after the call, and we can.
Hey,
always
later,
add
Michael.
topics.
I got a hard stop, so we'll talk
Yep.
to you later. Thanks for having me in your call. Appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Cyrus.
All right, bye-bye.
And I see a hand up. Give me 1 second to click over to that. Yes, Esther. Is that still from earlier? I think it must be. Okay, yeah. Well, so with that, we will call the May meeting to a close. Thank you again for everybody that joined, and I hope y'all enjoyed learning more about Power BI. And we'll reference the links in the chat to learn more. Y'all have a fantastic afternoon and wonderful weekend. And for those in the crowd that are moms, happy Mother's Day early. Thank you so much for being moms.
Thank you, Michael. Have a good rest of your day.
Thanks, Roxy. You too.